Hey guys, this will be the third video I've made on this topic, but it's loosely related to KEION, so I think it's alright. As some of you know, I have designed KEION Yu-Gi-Oh cards and have made 2 other videos showing them off. I have made drastic changes since the last one, so since I'm always looking for video ideas, I'll do this one showing how they look at the current moment. However, I won't go into as much detail as before, and any of the cards that have had little to no change from before will be skimmed over at most. Now, I have played around with their playstyle numerous times, alternating between trying to think up something unique and basing their effects off existing cards, and for now, there's a bit of both. I have also decided to bring back the counter effect, but it's been reworked, and you'll see how in this video. I currently have no way to actually test these cards, so I will be reliant on feedback from you guys. So let's get started. First up are the 8 KEION monsters that still have the counter effect. Unlike last time though, they themselves do not accumulate the counters, and the counter protection they had is no more. Their individual effects all require you to remove a music counter from your field to use, and most are hard once per turns. As for their effects, Azusa lets you special summon a cat token, a level 1 earth beast with 100 attack and defense. June lets you send a KEION monster from your hand to the graveyard to draw a card. Mio boosts the attack and defense of all KEION monsters you control by 500 until the end phase. Ritsu is able to attack twice per battle phase. Sumiri lets you add a KEION spell or trap card from your deck to your hand. Mugi can target and destroy one face-up monster your opponent controls but cannot attack the same turn. Ui lets you add a level 4 or lower KEION monster from your graveyard to your hand, and Yui lets you normal summon a KEION monster in addition to your normal summoner set. As you can see, quite a few changes. In addition, every main deck KEION bar 1 is an Earth Warrior. I felt this was more accurate to them since, even though many people, including myself, consider them angels, Fairy does not really fit them, and since there is no human type, Warrior is what we have to use. Moving on to the remaining KEIONs, we have Tonchan. Yes, the turtle is still here. His new effect lets you banish him from the graveyard to revive a different KEION, and that is a hard once per turn. There is a bit more banishing going on with this archetype now, similar to Vendrett's, so make sure you bring a pot of acquisitiveness or 2. Next up is Now. Her effect is basically the same as last time, only it is now an on normal summon effect, along the lines of cards like Alien Ammonite. Normal summon her, revive a KEION, go from there. Very simple. Next is Sachashi, who is exactly the same as before. If I were to cut any cards, which I have actually done, I'd probably cut this one and Tonchan, who I'm pretty sure is male, to keep it female themed like Trickstars or Melodious. Next is NODOKA, who has had a more drastic change from last time. She now lets you add a KEION monster from your deck to your hand with a different name to every other monster you control. If any of you play 6 Samurai, this is basically the same effect as Kizaru. Technically, NODOKA can do it on any kind of summon, but since it is a when effect, it can totally miss timing. Next is Megumi. She was kind of the Red Eyes Darkness Metal Dragon of the archetype in the last video, minus the special summon. Now, she can be special summoned from the hand if you already control a KEION, and she lets you tribute a KEION on the field for another one from your hand or deck that is a different name and level 4 or lower, and both effects are hard once per turns. You might notice some connections between my KEION cards and 6 Samurai, and at one point I did try to transfer the effects of the Samurai to my cards, though that proved a little difficult since not every one of the Samurai cards is great according to Rank 10 Yu-Gi-Oh! Like I said, I have used the effects of existing cards with these ones. Last of the main deck KEIONs is Sawako. She is no longer an extra deck card as I decided to use her, let's say, alternate forms for that. She can also be special summoned from the hand like Megumi, but you need at least 2 KEIONs to do it. She can revive KEIONs during your main phase, and she gives battle protection. So Sawako is the main boss monster of the archetype. Fitting since she is both the Light Music Club's teacher and advisor. As with the previous video, I'm also including Sawako's Death Devil persona, though there are 2 cards this time. First is Death Devil Sawako Yamanaka. The changes to her are as follows. She's dark attributes since one person in my Discord server said something along the lines of it would fit better. She requires a dark tuner and at least 2 KEIONs as materials. She has the protection of Blue Eyes Chaos Max Dragon, and if she's destroyed and sent to the graveyard, you can summon normal SAWANO from almost anywhere. The only thing that she kept from before was the Quasar Omni Negate. I feel these are better changes from before and make her a good final boss monster. Finally is another SAWANO card, Heavy Metal SAWANO Yamanaka. She's a dark rank 4 Xyz with 2400 attack and 2100 defense, requires 3 level 4 KEION monsters as materials, and her effect lets you once per turn detach a material to basically allow your KEIONs to auto-destroy any opponent's monsters they attack. I know making multiple Death Devil cards for SAWANO might seem silly, but I thought it would be fun to have more and give the deck some more options. Variety is the spice of life, as the saying goes. Now we move on to the spell cards, and for the back row, I'm just going alphabetically this time. First up is Honey Sweet's Tea Time. Before, it was a KEION Converts Contact. Now it's a KEION Pot of Avarice. Not much else to say. The next card is KEION Cake. It's not KEION without the cake. This works like Pot of Duality. Excavate cards, add a monster to your hand, shuffle the rest back, hard once per turn. The obvious danger would be excavating additional copies of the card. Duality into duality. I probably went a little overboard with the consistency of this archetype, given that there's a lot of drawing and searching, which makes it prime ash bait. Next is KEION Cat Ears. It still lets KEIONs attack directly, but it only works on the low level ones, mainly because I only really see arts of the Light Music Club members with cat ears. Also, you can recycle it a la Divine Sword Phoenix Blade, and given that they're all warriors, that would also allow Isolde plays. Next is KEION Clubroom. It's no longer a field spell, and this is where I started using the effects of the 6 Samurai cards because, as I think I stated in the previous video, I am not original. This card is where the music counters now accumulate, allowing the KEIONs to use their effects. It also provides effect protection, so combined with base SAWANO, they'll be a little tougher to deal with. However, I decided to put a drawback on the card where it blows up if there are no music counters on it, so unless you were successfully spamming the KEIONs out like with 6 Samurai, you'd have to be a little careful with this one. Next is KEION Dive. It's an archetypal destiny draw, literally that simple. Although, funny story, that image is what inspired the name, because it does look like Mio's diving. You know, ah! The next 2 cards are being put together, KEION High School and KEION Logo. I won't talk about them because you only need to read them and you'll know exactly which real world cards they are, might as well say it, ripping off, and they are not the last ones that do. Next is KEION Memories. It's no longer an auto-win card since those effects are kinda hard to pull off consistently. Instead, it's now a quick play that lets you banish a KEION you control to revive another one. There's also a lot of revival in this archetype, similar to Red Eyes. This also plays into the banishing that I mentioned before, and you do need to be careful when doing that a lot since there aren't that many ways I can think of to get banished cards back reliably. Dimension Fusion and Return from the Different Dimension would work wonders, but we can't have those now, can we? The next spell is KEION Revive. This is still the monster reborn of the archetype, but I also added the effect to recycle banished KEIONs since, again, some of these cards do a lot of banishing, and the last thing you need is to run out of resources. Next is KEION Roll Call. It's still the Rota card. The only changes that were made were the name and the fact that it only searches level 4 and below KEIONs, so you can't search SAWANO or Megumi with it. If you play standard Rota with it, you have 4 ways to search the low level KEIONs. Next is KEION Song. It was originally Space Gift for KEION, but is now a better version of Boon of the Make-Lord Emperor. Like I said, I think I overdid the consistency for this. A well-timed Droll and Lockbird would crap all over these cards. Next is KEION Spirit. This is the Soul Charge or Rekindling card. If you have no monsters, you can mass revive KEIONs from the graveyard, but they have to have different names, they're shuffled back into the deck during the end phase, it's a hard once per turn, and you lose your battle phase. I imagine a lot of people would call this broken, even with my attempt at putting limitations on it. If this one was real, I wouldn't be surprised if it got banned. Next is Moe Moe KEION. You still need Mio in order to use it, but instead of needing counters to be a board wipe, which makes it more clunky, it's a lot simpler and wipes out fewer cards. But it still only sends them, so most protection effects won't work, except for unaffected by effects. The final spell card is Raging KEION. It's almost identical to before. The only changes are it only works on the low level KEIONs, and instead of dropping the attack of the KEION it was used on to 0 until your next standby phase, it banishes it. I think it's better since it saves it, but if it was the only KEION you had, it leaves you open. So, pros and cons. Moving on to the trap cards, we have KEION Club Successors. It's still the KEION evenly matched, the main changes being you only lose the battle phase of the turn you use it, and if you have no other back row, it's a hand trap. I wouldn't object if someone said it was too powerful. I have tried to balance these cards as best I can, but I'm always open to suggestions on how to make them better but still fair. Next is KEION Concert. It's still the negates almost everything card, but this time you need KEIONs with different names to use it. Other than that, still the same. Next is KEION Strength. It's still largely the same, but it only summons level 4 or lower KEIONs, and it only gives them battle protection. So it's great for shielding against attacks, but any quick effects destruction will still take care of them. Next is KEION Switch. It's very different to before. Instead of exchanging a KEION on the field for another from your deck after it destroys an opponent's monster by battle, it lets you switch them out when they are attacked, but only once per turn, and again, they have to have different names. Kind of like they're calling for help from their friends. Next is KEION Twin Characters. It lets you tribute a KEION monster to target 2 of your opponent's cards and shuffle them into the deck. Sort of an upgrade to Icarus attack, but a little better in a way since it bypasses effects destruction protection and floating, and putting them back in the deck is more permanent. Next is Shielding a KEION. It's still a Protect the KEIONs from Attacks card, but this time you banish KEIONs from the graveyard to negate the attacks, but if there are no KEIONs in the graveyard, the card blows up. Maybe not the greatest, but any protection is good protection as far as I'm concerned. And the final card for this video, the one you will all scream at me for, is the 5 KEIONs. If you control 5 KEION monsters with different names, skip your opponent's next turn. I can hear every single one of you shouting, "Can this idiot be original for once?" And those are all the cards. I have put a lot of work into these, and I don't think I'm quite done yet, so these designs may change. I'd love to hear your feedback on them and any suggestions you may have to better balance them out. I also kind of want to try making a deck profile of them, even though I won't be able to use all of them, and almost every card will be a really bad looking proxy. If you'd like to see that, comments down below. If any of you like designing your own cards and would like to share them in a video, I'll put a link to where you can download TCG Editor and a link to Neo New Card Maker, which has the option to make links which TCG Editor currently lacks, in the description box. Let's see your creativity. As always, please rate, comment and subscribe. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter. Feel free to come join me on Discord. Consider backing me on Patreon. And remember to stay chilled.